So when you think about retail in India, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it these huge, gleaming new shopping malls? A massive consumer boom? Well, you're not wrong, but that's only part of the picture. The real story is actually way more complex and honestly a lot more surprising. So let's dive into a new report that really uncovers the truth behind India's shopping revolution. You see, the whole landscape has totally changed. Shopping in India, it's not just about buying stuff anymore. And this quote from the report just nails it. It's become all about the experience. It's this wild fusion of shopping, sure, but also entertainment and just social life. Okay, so if shopping is now an experience, what does that actually look like on the ground? I mean, on the surface, the growth seems pretty obvious, right? But the real story, the interesting stuff, is hidden in the details. So today, we're going to bust some of the biggest myths about how and where Indians are really spending their money. All right, let's start with the most obvious symbol of this whole boom, the shopping mall. We see new ones popping up all the time, but does that automatically mean they're all crushing it? Well, if you look at the actual data, that tells a whole different story. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You see, not all malls are created equal. They're actually graded from A to C, based on things like how many stores are filled, what kinds of brands are there, and how well it's run. And look at this, a full 22%, that's almost a quarter of all malls, are grade C. That means they are seriously, seriously underperforming. And at the really extreme end of this, you get what the report calls a ghost shopping center. I mean, just imagine that for a second. A mall where more than 40% of the storefronts are just empty. These are basically failing buildings that are totally skewing the numbers for the entire market. And this is where you see just how huge that impact is. So the official vacancy rate across India's top cities looks like 15.7%. Kinda high, right? But look what happens when you just pull those failing ghost malls out of the equation. Boom, the vacancy rate drops by more than half to just 7.4%. So the real takeaway is the healthy part of the mall sector is actually really healthy. So what's happening is this massive consolidation. Retailers are ditching those struggling grade C malls and all rushing to get into the premium, well-managed grade A centers. It's this flight to quality, where the best are just getting better and stronger, while the worst are pretty much fading away. Okay, so we've established not all malls are created equal, but what about the cities they're in? This brings us to myth number 2, the idea that all the real retail action is happening in the huge Tier 1 megacities like Mumbai, Delhi, and Bengaluru. Let's see what the data says. Now, at first glance, this chart seems to completely confirm that myth. Tier 1 cities have a massive 75% of all the shopping center space in the country. Looks like an open and shut case, right? But hang on a second. Is the total amount of space really the best way to measure how important shopping is to a city? What happens if we look at it relative to the number of people who actually live there? And this is where this really cool metric comes in. It's called shopping center density. It's not about how much total space a city has. It's about how much space there is per person. This gives us a much, much clearer picture of how saturated a city's retail scene really is. And here is the big reveal. Just compare Bengaluru, a huge Tier 1 tech hub, with Mangaluru, a Tier 2 city. It's not even close. Mangaluru has a shopping density of 175, completely blowing Bengaluru's 107 out of the water. Per person, the shopping scene is way more intense in this smaller city, which might be thanks to things like lower real estate costs and a fast-growing middle class. And it's not just Mangaluru, not by a long shot. Look at Lucknow, Chandigarh, Bhubaneswar. All these Tier 2 cities are punching way above their weight, with higher retail densities than most of their bigger Tier 1 cousins. The shopping boom isn't just a big city story. It's happening all across the country. Okay, on to our final and I think most fascinating myth, the ultimate showdown. It's modern shopping malls versus India's traditional shopping hubs, the high streets. You know what I'm talking about? The main commercial drag in any city, buzzing with all kinds of different shops and restaurants. I mean, you know the difference just by looking at them. On one side, you've got the planned, air-conditioned, structured world of a mall. And on the other, you have the vibrant, kind of chaotic, totally organic energy of a classic Indian high street. And they have totally different personalities. High streets, they're overwhelmingly the home of Indian brands. We're talking 87% of the stores. Malls, on the other hand, are the go-to spot for international brands. Over a third of their tenants are from outside India. Now, if you just look at the total revenue potential, malls seem like the undisputed champion. Their projected annual revenue is a staggering $14 billion. And high streets, well, they come in at about $3 billion. So based on those numbers alone, you'd think the fight's already over. Malls win. But here's the kicker. What happens when we stop looking at the total size of the pie and instead ask which one is more efficient? Which format actually makes more money from the exact same amount of space? So, in a shopping mall, the revenue you generate for every square meter is about $1,177. A very respectable number. Not bad at all. But get ready for this. High streets generate nearly $4,000 per square meter. That's over 3 times more profitable. It's likely because of lower overhead costs and just a more natural flow of people walking by. So while malls are bigger overall, high streets are, pound for pound, the far more powerful moneymakers. So what does this all mean for the future of shopping in India? Well, by busting these myths, we can see a much clearer, more nuanced picture. It's not about one thing beating another. It's about understanding this complex, hybrid world where different models have different strengths. The key takeaways are pretty clear. The new formula for success in Indian retail really seems to have 3 key parts. First, focus only on the absolute best, grade A malls. Second, invest in the massive, untapped potential of those Tier 2 cities. And third, find ways to leverage the incredible economic power of high streets. And that leaves us with this one big final thought. As India's cities keep growing and changing, where is the next great shopping experience going to come from? Will it be inside another gleaming new mall? Or will it be found on a revitalized historic street that's been there for generations? The answer to that is going to define the next chapter of Indian retail.